Hello, Fort listeners, people who are interested in this topic, which is apparently like 10 people. Can't really say I blame you. A lot of people just think that the Justin, Blake Lively, Baldoni courtroom drama, a lot of people are just over it, right? And to be honest, including me, just a little bit. Because what did I find out last night is that, sorry, I'm wearing, oh my god, I've got earbuds in. She's got JBLs in, she can't hear you. So what did we find out last night? Last night I read 110 pages deposition of Jamie Heath because I kind of found out that I wasted like weeks of my life reading depositions that were like half-baked, because only just now have they kind of not redacted, but they've unsealed a bunch of depositions. And so I was reading later, earlier on in the case, like page 5, page 6, I think, of the court docket stuff, and then page 7, and I'm not sure about 8, but page 7 has a whole bunch of shit that has been unredacted, and I wasted a whole bunch of my time, so now I'm having to reread everything. So that's awesome. But now I have a pretty good understanding of Jamie Heath's side of things. I don't think we'll be getting to that today, but today we're going to go back from where we left off, and we left off last episode with, you can probably tell from like the thumbnail and the title, is that there was some allegations about Melissa Nathan, who is Justin's PR, one of his PR people, in charge of TAG, the PR company. And so we're going to go from where we left off, and jumping right into it, where we left off, we have some messages that were found in Discovery, and these were kind of interesting to me. I don't know why, but let's have a read of this, because I don't really remember why I saved this. So we have from Melissa Nathan talking to Jamie Heath and Jen Abel being another PR person, saying that they were glad the press went good today. Justin should feel incredibly supported. We took the day today to do some research and get digital quotes in from the two teams we use that get the best results. Wonder what that means. As you're both aware, we're in a predicament that we just do not know the outcome of right now. Saying that full transparency is key here. We've seen the most innocuous issues turn giant due to socials, or the hugest crisis have no effect on social whatsoever. Wait, what? Or the hugest crisis have no effect on social whatsoever. You just cannot tell at this stage. But Blake Lively does have some of the TS fan base, so we will be taking it extremely seriously. Oh yeah, Taylor Swift. Yeah, Taylor Swift. Oh my god. Okay. Again, we will not be getting to Taylor Swift today, but that's fine. We also understand audience is not solely JB Justin Baldoni fan base, but the studio, so it is covering all bases time. Quote 1. 175k, this would be for a 3 to 4 month period, and includes a website to discuss, full Reddit, full social account takedowns, full social crisis team on hand for anything, engage with audiences in the right way, and start threads of theories to discuss. This is the way to be fully 100% protected. I feel like that it's pretty clear there, isn't it? I mean, it's like it's vague, but it's also not. So they were allegedly starting threads of like theories of like, oh, do you think this might have happened? This could have happened. It's like almost planting a seed in people's minds. And you know, like with all the Epstein stuff coming out right now, people love theories. People love to speculate. People love to think about what could be. I don't think any of us are really like innocent in that. I think we all kind of play into that a little bit. But it is interesting to think that if you're interested in something that's happening in like pop culture, for instance, and you're visiting like Reddits, maybe even snark pages, and you see like these posts about like theories and stuff, it's like it's interesting to think of like who could be behind that, right? So we have quote 2, 25,000 per month, minimum 3 months as it needs to seed, same as above. This will be for creation of social fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts, helping to change the narrative and stay on track. Okay. There's a lot more to both of these quotes, but easier to discuss via phone in terms of capabilities and what I have personally experienced in and out of crisis scenarios. Ugh. Okay. So that was kind of what I found about this Jones Works one. I thought it was pretty interesting. It is interesting. They're kind of outlining like what they're going to be doing, and do you not feel like that's kind of intriguing? I will say, as things have been going on, my opinion of like what this situation is at the end of the day, like with the truth and what it boils down to, I am starting to formulate like what I feel is a more I was about to say concrete and solid, a more concrete or solid opinion that I'm forming. I'm not going to say what it is just yet because I obviously haven't gone through everything, but I will say at this point I'm kind of seeing both sides of things, but I still need more information. You know, there's this weird feeling of like, I feel as though both sides are probably making points that have truth to them and are truthful in a way. And I don't know how much it's necessarily like one versus the other. And again, like I will say, like I think people focus too much on like the cringe stuff when it comes to Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively in particular. People really focus in on just how cringe Blake Lively is, particularly with like the text messages. I think that, yeah, they were cringe and they were hard to read and hard to, you know, listen to, but it's weird that we focus so much on these things, and then it's like people are digging up all this stuff about Blake and how she's like cringe and she said like bad things, which has changed some of my opinions about her for sure. But then we have like Justin, and it's like no one's really picking apart Justin and like things that he's said, videos that he's made. Like, have you seen the video where you get to tour Justin and Emily Baldoni's house in like fucking California or whatever? I don't know where it was. Probably somewhere in that area. Whatever that means. I'm Australian. I don't know what that means. But have you seen that video? It's like people like to keep talking about how out of touch Blake Lively is, how rich, and you know, she sits in her New York penthouse while the fires go on in LA and stuff. This is back when that was happening. And then it's like you watch Justin Baldoni's house tour and it's like, oh, you built and own a house in LA. Like, you obviously have money. Like, you are a co-owner of a movie production company. But people don't really like talk about that. They only highlight like what's wrong with like Blake Lively. And that's what I don't really like about this whole situation. Because I feel like a lot of people are biased and they're pretending they're not biased. And I think that's really just stupid. So that's kind of why I'm going through all this stuff. Okay, just gonna say one thing. This is the time to make decision on social planning. This is Melissa Nathan to Jen Abel. Now these text messages, I believe I was highlighting because... Right, they're talking more about like things to do with PR. Obviously they're the PR people. We should get on a call with Jamie today. We'll likely have a break around 11:30. And then Jen says ET. And then Melissa says, from my friend at TMZ, Justin Baldoni tips hitting our email about his beef with Blake and Colleen Hoover. This was on the Ooh, 8th of the 7th, 2024. I believe that's probably an American calendar, so it's probably the 8th of July? Yeah, because I think August is the 8th. Very confusing. Americans, please explain to me why it's better to do day, month. No. Wait, how does it go? Day, month. Wait, we do day, month, year. So they must do month, day, year? Wow, I am so confused. This is not what it's about. Okay, who gives a fuck about the calendars? Holy shit. Okay. So, what are the tips? I asked, that was my follow-up question. Jen Abel then says, if we can kill before we do the show today, before we do the Today show, emoji, emoji. And Melissa says, nothing to kill right now, don't worry. So they're actively, it seems, allegedly, like they're actively trying to kill stories that are not in the favor of their narrative that they want to perpetuate. So Jen's like, phew, good, thank God for you. Just to be aware, oh god, famous last words, Jen. This might be a fight, but we'll come through it well, that's all that matters. And then here we have another message from Melissa. Tip. Oh, so this is the tip from TMZ, apparently. Someone inside TMZ, apparently, allegedly. Tip. How are you guys not covering the beef between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni and Colleen Hoover? It's starting to show up all over TikTok that there's drama between all of them. Or them all. Also, they unfollowed each other. It read that. So Jen is, I guess, trying to coach her on what to say. And Jen's saying, like, oh, it's all fan speculation because he was in Sweden, then as a director did press separately. And then just say, they never fucking followed. Lol. I hate everyone. And then Melissa loves that message, I hate everyone. It goes, same. And then BL Vogue cover just dropped reading. Right. So I guess Blake Lively did a Vogue cover. I think in one of the files, it's mentioned that she was to do the Vogue cover to promote the film. And then I think at first she wasn't really keen on that, but I guess she must have done it in the end anyway. And so they're reading it and they say it's fine, and it's like, it's all just kind of meaningless fluff. Yeah. And so something's redacted, yada yada. Then there's, I'm assuming it's an article because Melissa kind of mentions something that was in the article. She finishes the cookie and brushes off the crumbs. Her ear jewelry sparkles in the light. And Jen Abel doesn't seem to really say, I don't understand what that is. Doesn't seem to say anything, not sure. And Melissa says, we can't change that headline. It's not a place that would. It's clickbait and it's reporting on what happened, which did happen. We need to concentrate on the big media and socials, but monitor that article heavily. And then Jen Abel says, I think we really need to put the social combat plan then into motion. Social combat. Wonder what that could mean. So then Melissa's like agreeing, they want to get the green light from Jamie Heath. And Melissa says, we are heavily monitoring, trust me, and have our friendlies updating us as well. So again, we get like this really vague language, of course. I mean, you have to be vague if you're talking about stuff that is maybe not, you know, you want to be kind of, what, innocuous or something about it? You want to be vague? Vague posting. Dude, how about that vague posting, huh? Love that shit. Dude, vague posters are the worst. Man, who even likes these fucking ear things? They're horrible. Ow, like, hurts my... Alright. We are heavily monitoring trust me, and we have our friendlies updating us as well. Who are the friendlies? I'm gonna assume, from my opinion, it's like, what's his name? Jed and his team. I'm gonna assume it's them. So they get the green light from Jamie Heath to do a social... what does it say? Social combat? Yeah, we really need to put the social combat plan into motion. Can you call Jamie, get the free green light? Yes. Sorry, we are back in press. And yeah, so I guess we don't get from there a confirmation that Jamie put the green light out for that, or whatever the social combat plan is. But then we get messages from Melissa Nathan giving links, a whole bunch of links to different media outlets. Variety. It ends with us review. Blake Lively stars in a romantic soap opera that turns dark and stays convincing. Got reviews. Hollywood Reporter, Justin Baldoni. On filming Ryle's Darker, it ends with us scenes with help from Blake Lively, female coordinators. Then we got the Hollywood Reporter. It ends with us review. Blake Lively stars in serviceable adaptation. Serviceable? What does that mean? Of the Colleen Hoover novel. Deadline, it ends with us. Review. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni deliver in nuanced featured take of Colleen Hoover bestseller. The Wrap, it ends with us. Review. Blake Lively shines in a glossy her story of passion and violence. So it's hard to determine whether like these articles are something to do with the PR team or if they're just like, hey, let's like look into this stuff. Justin Baldoni drama, it ends with us cast explained. Screen Rant, Blake Lively's controversial movie adaptation debuts with mixed reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Sorry, Rotten Tomatoes. Culturess, it ends with us is a frustratingly inert take on abusive relationships. Right. Now guys, this is what I like to do in case anyone is confused. I'm gonna look up what inert means because some people might not know. And I'm doing this for you guys. Inert, lacking the ability or strength to move. Yeah, okay. Chemically inactive. An inert political system is an example sentence. Frustratingly inert take on abusive relationships. Well, I don't think I really agree with that. I don't know what culturess is, but I definitely don't agree with that take. Frustratingly inert, like it's stagnant. Like, I mean, we're not here to really talk about the movie, but you know what? I'm going to talk about it. They're saying that the movie's take on abusive relationships is just like there's no movement, like there's nothing new, are they saying? Yeah, I really don't agree with that. I don't agree with that in that I think that the domestic violence aspects of the movie, I think they touched on it in a way that was not too overly triggering. It still kind of was a little bit, but it was like, it felt serious. And I know that there's like discussion over like, well, who actually came out with like the final movie, right? And I think that it is Sony, a production from like basically Sony and Blake Lively, because I think Baldoni's cut didn't do well enough in the Bake Off. That's like, I don't think we've even touched on that yet, so whatever, but frustratingly inert. I've got to look that up now, actually. Based on 2016 Colleen Hoover novel of the same name, director Justin Baldoni immediately gets off on the wrong foot with an early exchange between Blake Lively and Ryle. Oh, yeah, Lily and Ryle. These two have just been on the rooftop of Ryle's apartment. He's just dying to know the name of this beautiful woman. Blah, 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 blah. Ryle and Lily make endless jokes about, wow, your parents must have hated you, blah, blah, blah. Such self-aware dialogue, hailing from Christy Hall's screenplay, presumably taking cues from Hoover's writing, had me rolling my eyes. Listen, the book canonically has called the three main characters, I guess, Atlas, Ryle. That's like something I see a lot of people upset about, me too, me included. Ryle, and then Lily Blossom Blooms, the flower lady. I mean, no one is... let's put it like this. The book did really well. The movie also did really well, but the book did really well. And people were like, you know, the name's not good. I think, yeah. But Colleen Hoover is a pretty... I'm gonna say she's like a very famous author. I didn't know about anything about her until the movie kind of started happening. But she has a pretty big following. I mean, you know, you're rolling your eyes because of the names. We live in a world where the couple that spurred legalized mixed race marriage in America had the surname Loving. Sometimes folks just have on-the-nose names. Instead of recognizing that reality, it ends with us earliest cutesy... It ends with us's. That's not even correct grammar, okay. Earliest cutesy romantic dialogue begs audience to forgive a ridiculous protagonist's name. What are you gonna do? Are you seriously gonna take... Hey, we're gonna take Colleen Hoover's book, the really big one, that is like really close to her and like based off of like her own personal experience with her parents and her generational trauma apparently. Are we gonna just change the names? Do you see here how that's kind of just like, that's not gonna work? Like people were already, I think, pretty upset about, what were they upset about with the movie? They were upset with the casting. People thought that like Blake Lively was like too old or something. There's a lack of confidence here that unfortunately signals the underwhelming movie to come. Just because their names are the same from the book and the writer chose bad names. Okay, the same day Lily met Ryle, she attended her father's funeral. This day was grueling thanks to Lily's fraught relationship with her dad. Yeah, because he abused his wife, her mother, so, you know. However, she's got other things to focus on, like launching her dream flower store in Boston. She renovates a crumbling building with the aid of her best pal, Alyssa, whose brother is Ryle. Yes, dude. Why the fuck am I reading this stupid fucking article? Yes, dude. This is how these YA novels work. Okay, it's not a YA novel, but it's like... I'm not gonna lie. This whole concept of like... I haven't read the book, but I'm assuming that it's the same in the book. Is that this Alyssa chick is Ryle's sister. They just happen to meet. Small world, right? Oh, wow. Ryle comes to the flower shop and is like, that's my sister who's working for you? And then Lily and Alyssa are like, oh my god, small world. Like, it's stupid. Yeah, it is kind of stupid as fuck. Okay, maybe I'm kind of agreeing with them now. Lily and Ryle can't stop running into each other, and that quickly blossoms into a passionate romance. Yeah. I mean, I know, it's one of those things where it's like, but we gotta move the story forward, right? Is it dumb? Yeah, I'll agree with that. It is dumb. Throughout all this modern day smooching and courtship, Hall's script takes viewers back to Lily's younger days as a high schooler. They refer to Atlas as an unhoused teenager. Yeah, we're doing that now. We now refer to people who are homeless as unhoused, which, to be honest, just sounds the exact same as homeless, it's just a different word. We've got unhoused, meaning no house, and then you have homeless, which is homeless. You do not have a home. I don't know why we're doing this, but we are. Okay, what else is the other one? It's, insecure housing or something? What was it? I don't know, man, just say homeless. I mean, what's wrong with it? Why is homeless suddenly not okay to say? That man eventually reappears in Lily's life. Atlas, decades later. Classy eatery. Blah, 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 blah. Lily always vowed to never end up like her mother, who stayed in a brutally abusive spouse. Stayed with whatever. Now she's trapped in the same relationship, unsure where to turn next. Despite some more light-hearted marketing materials involving Lively's partner Ryan Reynolds. It Ends With Us is conceptually a heavy movie. Yeah, you know, actually remembering some of the marketing material, there was like a video between the guy who played Old Atlas, Brandon Sklenar, and Ryan Reynolds, and talking about like one of their butts or something in one of the... I've got to say, guys, I don't know about you, but I've been over Ryan Reynolds I've been over him. I'm sorry, it's just... I think we watched, was what's that movie? The Yes Man or something, where he plays like the NPC in a game. That was actually a fun movie. I did like that movie. It was like a fun little, just like whatever silly movie to watch. But as far as like Ryan Reynolds and his whole shtick of being like the irreverent funny guy, so over it. Dude, I've been over that whole shtick since like Guardians of the Galaxy 1. So annoying. My god. Listen, at the time it was something new and it was like fine. It was even just like, wow, that's a breath of fresh air. And then it just turned into like, okay, what if we wrote every single like protagonist to be like the really cool guy who's like isn't fazed by anything. It's like, shut the fuck up. Okay, so I was just like, okay, maybe I'll read that. For another, the cinematography and editing fail to evoke the brewing passion between these two. Ah, interesting. Their sensual rendezvous occur against backdrops like a generic outdoor shopping center or a sterile, ritzy loft. Okay, so they're saying that basically there just wasn't enough sensuality between the two, like, characters who have, like, the main love interest. And I know that with, like, with the movie and stuff, Justin Baldoni was, like, really hell-bent on making sure that it was well established, that there was, like, a sexy, like, magnetic relationship between the two characters, and that because you had to make the audience believe that Lily Blooms was with Ryle and was having a hard time leaving Ryle because there was that connection. And I don't know, whatever. I think I just wasted my time reading that. Little White Lies, it ends with us review, struggles to grapple with its heavy theme. Comic book resources, it ends with us review, a fine and nuanced depiction of abuse. It seems like people were kind of polarized on whether they thought it was a good depiction or not, which is interesting. I guess some people think it's fine and some people are just like, it wasn't good enough. But then it's like, how do you know if like these things are to do with, you know, the PR team's involvement or not? I don't really know. Footwearnews.com even talked about fashion celebrity style. It ends with us premier fashion shoes Blake Lively. What the fuck? Wait, what? I don't know how that happened. Okay, so then we have, adding on to the text messages between Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan. Apparently at one point, Melissa Nathan's sister, Sarah Nathan, was calling Jen Abel. Now, Sarah Nathan is also in like the media world. I think she works for like I don't know what paper she works for. I think they say it later, but yeah. So it's interesting that they also have another person in the mix who Melissa is connected to, that they can kind of talk to about stories with, and so they're talking about wanting to chat as a group. And Sarah Nathan apparently has something that about the whole Blake Lively situation that she wants to talk about, and then I think Melissa's like, dude, like, why? So Melissa's been talking to Dumois, apparently. Chatting with Dumois on the side, which is like, okay, Dumois is like a pretty big celebrity gossip page, right? Not even page, I mean, I think there's, I don't even know what Fomois is on Reddit. I don't know who they are. Dumois. I've even heard of the Kardashians mentioning Dumois. I don't know what it is. I don't know who they are. I've never followed them or read their things. I think they just kind of, it's like the real life Gossip Girl. That's my interpretation of Dumois. So Melissa's saying that they feel really good about their chat with Dumois, and now she's going to talk to her sister, and they're going to, I guess, discuss what's going on. So then Jen and Melissa are kind of like rubbing each other's backs about like the hard work that they're doing. Yada yada yada. Justin is asking, did you connect with Sarah? And Melissa's like, I did. I'd rather have the conversation with you on your own though. There isn't a huge amount, but there are a couple little things, but not from that list. So, it's interesting. Then we have this little thing that also came through Discovery, which was basically the tag overview of like how they do crisis prevention mitigation. Now, I believe this would be in reference to some... Oh yeah, here we see. Month, day, year. Confusing. Very confusing for me. So in one of the text messages, it's referenced that Justin wasn't feeling as protected as he did over the phone. So over the phone, clearly, they made some promises about what they could deliver, but then they said later in the text between Jen and Melissa that there were things that they can't say over text. That's famously where they get the idea of like, oh, we can bury anyone, right? Which is a very... I don't know why people ignore that. I mean, that's a pretty... If we're thinking of like the concept of like what Blake's been arguing about, like the smear campaign, that's pretty up there, I would say, with smear campaign stuff. So I think this is the document that kind of is all the stuff that they're like professionally putting forth as like, oh, like this is what we're gonna do, but then in like the, maybe on the phone or maybe on the Signal app, they're like saying like, this is what we're really gonna do. You know, so this is kind of like a formal lettering. So Tag will work closely with Jones Work. Yeah, this was back when Melissa, I think Melissa Nathan was still with Jones Works or something, before she went and made her own PR group. It's so confusing, like all the names and stuff, I'll be honest. I thought Tag was Melissa's, but I guess Tag is like Jennifer Abel's thing. I don't really know. Because, yeah, Melissa Nathan, I believe, left Jones Works at like the end of August. This is still July. So we have a ways to go until that kind of breaks off. So yeah, our approach will include the following elements. Support Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, and its applicable executives with independent strategic counsel and perspective. Curate statements, background information, talking points for press reflecting the company's core values, key messaging, and the integral role they played to bring this film to life. I feel like they probably still would have used this stuff, but it's like, when you think of PR, you think of like, oh, when they do interviews, they're trained, they're media trained, they know what to say, they have like a sort of prefixed list in their head of like points to fall back on, that their PR will like, this is like a good angle. But what's so interesting about this case is that we're seeing the PR side of things in a way that's like, I guess what you kind of like suspect that they do like this weird like nefarious stuff perhaps, but there's not really any reason to think that. It's just like, as an audience person, as like a viewer, you might think like, oh, they just like, they manipulate us, but you don't really have a way of like confirming that. Whereas this whole case is really shining a light on the deep intricacies, I would say, of the Hollywood sphere, the PR stuff, and I personally think that's really interesting. And I think seeing this stuff kind of having a light shown on it is really interesting. Did I say interesting enough? Great statements, background. Okay, we did that. Develop a comprehensive scenario planning document outlining a series of potential outcomes with a suggested course of action for each variable. Each variable, okay. Catalog third-party validators from the crew, previous projects, and other industry peers to establish credibility around the narrative and help shape perception in the press. Monitor coverage and social conversations, correcting and updating stories and headlines in real time. So then they have like one about branding and messaging. 15,000 a month. God. perform media training and prep sessions by drafting, reviewing talking points, and facilitating a mock interview experience as necessary. It's like, that's kind of what I think a lot of people would see PR just being. But it's interesting to think that PR could be, and probably is more often than not, far more than that. Because, I mean, if you think about it, when it comes to like PR, a lot of people think like PR is useless, they don't do anything, they kind of just hired and then their contribution is like, they're just a money sink. That's what I hear some people talking about, but then there must be a reason why so many people have them. But then people will just be like, oh, well, I just assumed, you know, it's just a waste of their money. But they just have so much money that they just do not care. And I'm here to tell you, to show you this stuff and go like, maybe a lot of people have PR because they're doing some shady shit that's like in their favor. Maybe. Or maybe they are just wasting their money. I don't know. Maybe. Okay, so then we have Justin appearing, talking, was this the article you guys were saying Variety was working on, and he's talking about something on Twitter? And he's asking, can we stop this feud language? It's one-sided. I don't want to be a part of the feud. I really wish this kind of stuff would read more favorable to the way that I've spoken about her and handle the situation versus me being a part of a tabloid feud. Then Brianna Butler says, they mentioned it to us a few weeks ago and wanted to do a harsher angle against Ryan Reynolds. Then they left it until yesterday, but ended up softening it a lot, which is good. We can work on a feud language, agree. And then Melissa says, where this story is now compared to where it was before is way different. We also do not want to continue the negative messaging, but as we all know, it's clickbait. Okay. Then Justin says, yes, but I don't like that they are lumping me in with it. It is clearly one-sided, as the internet can tell, but this doesn't paint it that way. So when was this? This was the 27th of August. 2024. It's so crazy to think it's been so many years since all this stuff has started happening. Justin saying it's feels very much in their favor, as in the favor of Blake Lively's team, I guess. No mention of her promotion and backlash, but does mention me being unfollowed. I guess what I'm saying is that if by us being silent means Variety is changing their tone from being more harsh to Ryan to clearly being more harsh to me, then I would rather us not be silent. So I guess all I'm saying is that it's hard to have everything that has happened to me and to be dragged into this mess and then have it written about as if I'm an equal part of it. Oy, oy, oy. So I guess from these text messages it kind of feels like Justin is still keeping on that point of view where it's like, this is all Blake Lively's fault. This is all to do with her. This is nothing to do with me. I haven't done anything. For us and an outsider viewpoint, does not read that way and specifically calls into question a potential violation on his end. Ryan, I think? Variety is on our side, however, we want to be mindful of the onslaught against them as we're turning a corner. People are starting to move on and didn't want anything seemingly coming from our side for this. Justin says, understood. Brianna then says, if there's ever a chance or time when we decide to address this or add anything to the narrative, Variety is very much on our side. They've been appalled by all of this in your favor. So Justin's like, it doesn't feel that way. I just want this feud language to end. And then Melissa says, we need to be careful not to put out any stories that look so placed. Definitely open to discussion as a group on different ideas, especially as it links into new projects to clear it all up. And then Justin says, definitely don't want to play stories and yet just want to change the narrative. Well, how are you going to change the narrative to be what you want without doing that? Like, you think people are just going to magically come up with the exact narrative that you want it to be? Maybe not. I wish they would write that. I only said nice things about her and never spoke disparagingly of the cast, and so it's apparent the feud only works one way. Yeah, so Justin went to great lengths to make sure that when he was addressing things, he'd talk about just, you know, oh, the cast was great, you know, we had so many women on the cast, you know, it's a day for women, yada yada yada. As we saw in one of the earlier links to an article, he was talking about how everything was done with like women coordinating it. Like there was a huge focus of like attention on the fact that women supported this project, because I mean, you might say like a movie about domestic violence, about a woman, generational trauma, perhaps it should be done by a woman, but I think Baldoni kind of wanted to get ahead of that by having an emphasis on, I don't even know why I'm wearing these. Having an emphasis on the fact that women were supporting him, and that maybe a woman wasn't directing it, but he was getting a lot of his ideas and critiques from women. Colleen Hoover. Which, when we eventually get to it, I think that stuff was pretty juicy. So we totally agree, as I think you can see, the majority of the press and social-wise agrees with you as well. JB Heath says the article's actually quite good. The narrative is less about the feud than previous stories. The truth is, there is in fact bad blood, and there's no way around people writing about it to some degree. I agree with him. Yeah, it's dying. Let's not get too caught up in a story here and there. I think what we've been doing has been working. Let's stay the course and not react. So yeah, they're all in a group chat together, planning out how they're gonna react to these things, and Jen Abel. Oh, maybe Jen Abel was the one who left Jones Works, because there was a whole thing about the phone number. Jones Works keeping the original phone number that the person had, and whatever. I don't think it really matters that much. But yeah, I think Jen Abel might have been that person. Because it's like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, Melissa Nathan was definitely someone who went off to want to make their own company, which I don't know if is, I don't remember if that was after Hiltzik or something. I don't really know. So she's gonna talk about the feud language and yada yada yada. Yeah, so Justin then says, okay, thanks all. Still having nightmares every night. I'm processing all this, so that may have simply colored my read. I appreciate you all. Yeah. Which, again, like, if Justin is like super innocent in all of this, he never did any sexual harassment, he never, you know, if he never did any of that and he never did a smear campaign and like his life just got totally turned upside down, like, I can see why. Like, if you truly believe that, I can see why people are so like fervently on his side, because that does sound like a nightmare. That sounds horrible. Now, I think I pointed this out last video about Melissa Nathan allegedly lying on the stand, or lying under oath in her deposition. I'll read it again. At this point, Brian Friedman, also her lawyer, also was personally involved in attempting to kill stories that were unfavorable to his clients, including by threatening one reporter that he would never ever let up going after you for the rest of my career. Which is, that is a pretty scary, if that's true, I don't know if it is, but this is in a court document. That's a really scary thing probably for a reporter to experience, especially from Brian Friedman of all people. He has quite a reputation, I have to say. Friedman also threatened at least one witness, apparently. In a text message on February 6, 2025, Nathan expressed confidence that Jenny Slate would not join Lively as a plaintiff because Friedman had gone ballistic on her lawyer and manager today, and said that her career would be over if she backs his horse, sort of thing. Confronted at deposition, Melissa Nathan first lied and claimed it never happened, but after being confronted by the text, she explained that she had thought it was privileged information and thus perhaps acceptable to lie about under oath. Thanks. I just wanted to point that one out again because that's pretty crazy to do. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding on her part. I don't know. I thought reading that was kind of insane. Not gonna lie. That's just my opinion on the whole thing. So I don't know how much of that is true. It was in a court document. Take with that what you will. So here we have, do we go through the... You really were not told that Tag was placing a story with the Daily Mail. No, I was not, and actually I would like to add that not only were we not told, we were given explicit instructions from our client to not place any story that was negative about Blake or otherwise. Our main focus was to mitigate the negative press that was breaking organically from the press tour. But what we saw was them talking about a social media combat strategy. That's interesting. Sure, like Justin said, like, we definitely don't want to place stories, and yet I want the narrative to be different. And you could say that if they're targeting like fandom, Reddits, and stuff like TikTok and stuff like that, Dumois, it's like maybe you're not technically placing a story, but you're placing like a seed. You're planting seeds of thoughts to get people to kind of feel like they're naturally coming to the conclusion that you want them to, which to me would be manipulative. And that's my interpretation of the language. They don't outright say in one block a message like, hey, this is what we're gonna do and this is how we're doing it. They're a bit better about talking around it, but that's what I personally think is going on. They've gone to all sorts of social medias, they've focused Reddit pages, they maybe even, I wouldn't say they made Reddit page, but they definitely have been viewing, I would say, the pro Blake Lively Reddits. And, you know, if you can mobilize the fandom that you already have, you can kind of weaponize them to kind of do your job for you in a way. If you have all the Baldoni stands making up a Reddit of being like pro Baldoni, where you're kind of enraging them and outraging them in such a way where they just want to make so many videos, so many posts, that SEO itself is probably going to crowd the search function for when people are searching these things up. And then normal passerby people who don't know what snark Reddits are, or just like don't really know much about Reddit and social media, they're going to be looking up Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively, and they're going to see Reddit posts that are like people who have had that seed of doubt planted in them, who are making these really impassioned posts about it. And so then that's how you kind of spread the seed to normal people, is through SEO, I think. That's kind of like what I think is going on here. At least it's a part of it, I would say. But that's just my opinion. I'm not an expert in any of this. So yeah, we went over the Feud language, and we got a little bit more time left. So that is Melissa Nathan's section fully complete. Then we have Ryle's depiction, which is, I guess, more on Baldoni versus Colleen Hoover. And I don't have the court document that I got this from, unfortunately, but it's a text message between Colleen Hoover and Justin Baldoni. And I would say it's probably very early on in the production, way before they probably did filming. I think they were still in the middle of even casting. Yeah, I think they were still in the middle of casting people. So very early on, right? Now I found this really interesting because, again, we see this like narrative of like, Justin had all these women who are behind him, helping him do this movie the right way, with like a woman's touch, but like he's still able to direct the movie. And reading these texts, which I'm pretty sure all this was on page 6 of the court documents, the dockets, if you will. So if you want to go ahead and look yourself, there's so much on page 6. Oh my god. So Colleen says, yeah, I'm just saying things on the top of my head while I'm in bed, lol. 2. The switch of the baby names. I get why y'all did it, because it helps with the reveal of what happened to his brother. So spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie or read the book, I don't know if it's in the book, I think it is. Ryle, the domestic abuser, when he was a kid, he accidentally killed his brother in the story, or something. And so he has a lot of like, I guess that's like one of the reasonings for his like pent up rage and aggression or something. I didn't really understand what that was about. I guess it's just to say that like Ryle had some trauma there, I guess, to say the least. So switching the baby names, but I feel like it will upset a lot of people that Lily names their baby Riley after everything Ryle did to her. It sort of left a bad taste in my mouth against Lily. That's something we can get the readers' opinions on for sure. So they originally had it in the script that apparently Lily would name her and Ryle's baby Riley, which is weird. Now, I think at the end of the movie, what the now like canonical name of the baby is like Emerson, I think. Yeah. I'm kind of confused about this because my interpretation of this, and let me know what you think of this. My interpretation is that they switched the baby name to maybe, I don't know, make it so the audience who are watching and they've read the book, maybe make it a bit fresher for them or make something different. But the idea was like, how about Lily names the baby between her and Ryle Riley? This is a baby girl, and it's so, but it's like, that doesn't really make sense to me, because why would you fucking do that? You're gonna name your baby girl after, like, as like a feminized name of like the name of the dad who's like a domestic abuser, someone who domestically abused you? That's my interpretation of that, which is like, if that was really how that idea was floating across, that is so fucking stupid and bad. And I can kind of agree with Colleen, and that makes sense to me why she says reading that left a bad taste in her mouth against Lily, because it's like, yeah, that kind of plays into that whole thing of like, oh well, why don't you leave your abuser, you know, blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, oh, why are you naming your baby after like kind of after your abuser? Like, what the fuck? That's kind of weird. Ugh. So Justin then says, yep, love those notes. I also see the other side of that one, the idea there are no bad people. There are no bad people. So, if my interpretation of this is correct, and in Justin Baldoni's script, Lily, like, names the baby after the dad in honor of him for some reason, it's because he believes there are no bad people? I definitely have a problem with that. I have a problem with that mentality. I know that Justin is part of this thing called the Baha'i faith, and it is my understanding that it's very like, listen, this might sound bad, but it's very, very like hippie, right? It's very like, you know, love everybody, forgive everyone, fuck yeah, right? Fuck yeah. When there's love, you can do anything. I've seen the quote in his house. It's also, sidebar, there were a lot of emails from Justin Baldoni where he has this one quote by the guy who started the Baha'i faith, and it's like, when there is love, there is time for anything, and you can do anything. And he ends every email like that. There's like a prefix signature in like every single email from him, and I just have to say, like, it's also a quote that's like plastered on a wall in his backyard, because I saw the video of his house tour. It's like, come on, dude. Like, it's just laying it on a little bit thick. I get that it's like it's your faith or whatever, and you know, you're endowed to have that faith. Was it endowed? You're allowed to have that, but I'm also allowed to kind of have a reaction to that and be like, okay, it's coming on a little bit thick. But like, to talk about someone, like, if he believes the other side of things is that there's no bad people, then I don't think he's approaching It Ends With Us the way that I think I would. And I can't imagine It Ends With Us was as popular as it was because a lot of women were reading it and going like, there's no bad people in the world. Ryle is just a misunderstood dude who, you know, he just needs forgiveness. He needs to learn how to love again. Like, women, I'm just gonna say, as a woman, I'm gonna make a sweeping generalization. I think that the point of it is not that, like, there's no bad people. The point is that this is a woman's experience, a woman's life, something that lots of women go through and even die because of. It's not that we're trying to say that, like, all men are bad. It's not like we're trying to say that, like, men are just horrible and bad people. I think if you were to believe that there are good people in life, then you have to believe that there are bad people as well. It's like, you say you believe there are no bad, the idea that there is no bad people, well, I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was a bad person. You know? So, like, what are we doing here? I genuinely believe people who are like, oh, there's no bad people in the world. I don't believe you. Or if you truly do believe that, I think you're kind of an idiot. And maybe that's rude. Maybe that's rude. I don't know. Don't care. If we're going to go back to the movie or the themes of domestic violence and generational trauma, this was made by Colleen Hoover with the intention that we target women who could be on the way to repeating the cycle. So also making sure the movie is PG so that teenagers can go and watch it, teenage girls, so that they can see how this stuff kind of happens as like a somewhat of an form of entertainment that's also educational. And I think that's important. I think I said that in the last video. I think that's important, and I feel very strongly about that because there are a lot of people who are growing up in these sort of situations, seeing their parents get domestically abused, and they then, this is how it works. They then go continue the cycle because from like what we understand psychologically, what you see in your parents is kind of like modeled for you of like what relationships should look like traditionally, right? So if you see that in your parents' relationship, you are probably unknowingly, subconsciously searching for that in your own relationships. And if you're not really aware of that, and you're not even really aware of how these things can come about, all the nuances of it, then, you know, we don't want that cycle to repeat in people. And I think it's important that the movie is more of like a hopeful movie that Lily moves on. Not that Lily holds on to hope that Ryle could change, that Ryle could be different, that one day Ryle could be back in her life again. I think that it's more like, it's okay to close the book on a relationship that was harmful to you. Even if you're tied with like a child together, it's important to note that like you can leave that permanently and you don't have to worry about that person who did that to you. If in the end of the, like at the end of the day, if Ryle ends up getting better and improving, which I think for the most part a lot of people don't, I'm just gonna say I agree with that. I think a lot of people don't change. But if in the case that he does, then I think it's like, okay, good for him, but that's for him and his future, perhaps partner to enjoy the benefits of. I don't think it's I don't think it's okay to be to women like, listen, he could change, he could go to therapy and get better, and then everything's fine, and then like, you know, one day you guys can open the book back up and be a happy, normal, healthy relationship. I don't think that's something that we should be encouraging women to do. And so I think this whole idea of like, there's no bad person, let's be forgiving, let's be like very gracious towards abusers and stuff. I'm not saying that this isn't necessarily what happened, because I don't have all the text messages, I was not a fly on the wall, and I might be just ranting here, which I probably am, but these are all the feelings that I have about it that are based on further text messages. So, one big thing Colleen says is in the book, Ryle admits to having been in therapy for years. I feel like this script hints that therapy could be a fix, with the way it ends with Lily being so nice to her father, and how she mentions to Ryle that he should go to therapy, and he says he will. Colleen then says, It concerns me based on feedback. It concerns me based on feedback from the book that the script in a sense is almost too forgiving of these men, and that may just be because it's a script and there's more that will come through the acting, but I don't know how I feel about changing Ryle to never having gone to therapy, because most of these men don't change, and this almost feels like we're alluding that they can. I haven't figured out what I would change in regard to this though, so let me give some thought. But I love pretty much everything else, can't wait to come next week and dive into this process after Hell Week is over. Not that signings, like book signings, are hell by any means, but having this event be completely on my shoulders is so stressful, and I'm ready for Monday to get here, lol. Okay. So that is really interesting, right? So it concerns me based on feedback from the book. Based on feedback from the book, the script is almost too forgiving of the men. See, again, I think that being so nice to her father. She mentions Ryle should go to therapy, and he says he will. It's like, yeah, I kind of agree with Colleen here. I think that, is it the right story to be depicting that, like, guys can change, or, like, not just guys, but, like, people. People can change and go from being domestic abusers to being normal functioning? Perhaps that's an important thing to talk about in another film, another production, another story, but I don't think this is the story to be doing that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If it's in the book, and there's, like, criticisms of the book being forgiving on the men, then I don't know. I would also criticize that, because I think that if you want to talk about domestic abuse and domestic violence and generational trauma and focusing particularly on, like, the woman's experience, right? It's not the time to be talking about, like, well, what about the man, you know? It's not the right time for that. I'm open to stories about that. I'm open to suggestions of narratives that talk about, like, well, is there hope for guys? You know, if you are a guy and you've done the wrong thing, is there hope for you to have a future? And I think there definitely is. I think that just a lot of the time, it's just not with that same person. I think that it's not fair to try and pressure someone who's been abused to hurry up and forgive someone, or to even be in a relationship with that person again, because I can see it being very, like, re-traumatizing and re-triggering. And I think this is, like, more like general advice about the whole situation, but I think in general, you'd probably be just better off going your own ways and starting new lives and just not being together. And I think that has probably happened in life, and I think that probably can happen. So I'm not saying that I want to condemn people who do domestic violence, but a lot of the time change doesn't happen because the person doesn't see a problem with what they did. When it comes to Ryle and his character, I think at the end he does kind of get an idea about it, but it's only because he had a baby girl and then started thinking about, like, well, what if that happened to her? Which is like, I'm sorry, the only way you're convinced that you're in the wrong is because you had a baby and you had to imagine your own brethren, your own fruit of your loins experiencing that. It's like, I'm sorry, but I've been knowing that since I was, like, 5. No offense, bro, but I didn't need to have a kid to realize that. Yeah. So I think this definitely made me think of Justin Baldoni a bit differently, with, like, the whole, like, there's no bad people, like, I see the other side of things. I don't like that, and I don't think I like someone like that making this kind of movie, because I don't think it has a place here. I think in It Ends With Us, Ryle is not only a guy who does domestic violence and assault, but he also attempts to rape Lily. And Justin Baldoni himself explained that it was Ryle's messed up thinking that he could love Atlas out of Lily, trying to find a way to describe attempted rape as the rapist thinking of it as loving. Okay. And we know that this is something that he said because of a recently unsealed court document featuring Sony's head of marketing. The marketing head said Justin should not do any more press because he's a... I think they said he's a moron or something, or he just like really fumbled it. So in this unsealed email from Megan, Sony's head marketer, they allegedly quote the statement Baldoni made. For me, what the scene was more about was Ryle feeling like he had lost all power and feeling so insecure and jealous that the only way in his mind that he could show her how much he loved her was, and I won't say the word that we used in developing it, but was what was essentially to force any love she had for Atlas out of her. I think that's, after Ryle's character connects the dots that the tattoo on Lily's, like, collarbone is an Atlas reference. Or it's, like, to do with Atlas and their relationship. So Ryle's motivation, if you're talking about character motivation, or why he did what he did, attempted rape, from the filmmaking perspective and from the actor perspective, was, he was trying to, in his twisted mind, love Atlas out of her. There's another word we used in, and I'm sure your imagination, you can go there. I quoted that badly, but that's apparently what he said in unsealed documents quoted by Megan. My issue here is that I think, yeah, like I said, I think there are bad people in the world, and I do think people who rape and assault others are doing bad things. You can say that they had a twisted perspective or their mind was like not right and stuff, but I think that's doing bad things, and I don't agree with that, and I think that's bad. So I'm sorry if that's a hot take over here, but that's what I think. So again, we talk about like, can people change, yada yada yada. Again, I don't think this is the story for that. This is the story that is hopeful because the woman gets away, she's okay, she's able to live her life and not have him. You know, and some people might roll their eyes about that and stuff, but it is an important thing because a lot of the time, when it comes to leaving these situations, you know, you just don't have like the resources to do it. It's like, what does my life look like without them? You know, like, I think breaking up with people is a hard enough thing a lot of the time, as is, because it's like, this person who knows so much about you, you know, you're so close, and it's like, a lot of the time, you can't imagine your life without them, right? You just can't. And it isn't until you're actually out of it that you're like, oh, you know, life's actually like fine. Like, we move on, things get better. And I think it's important that we highlight that to women who could be in these situations or headed for these situations to understand that there is a world out there where they can be away from it and fine. They don't have to stay in something that's bad out of fear. I will say though, I think that when it comes to addressing like this situation, it's called The Maid or something. There's this TV show, I think it's on Netflix, it's called Maid, and it's a really good show about exactly these themes. I think did a phenomenal job at really just talking about this situation, and it has a happy ending, so like that's good, as happy as that situation can be. But it is so deep and dark, and I would say realistic. It's like, even just like thinking about it, like, oh my god. But yeah, it has the girl who was in The Substance. I forget her name. Is it Margaret? Names escape me at the moment. It's really good though. I would highly recommend. I would definitely recommend that. Probably over It Ends With Us, if we're being real. But yeah. So the hope is stopping the cycle of abuse. Love that. So then we have other things where Angie Giannetti in Unsealed Files says to Justin Baldoni, "Ring me when you can, love. Ring me when you can, love." And then Justin sends something, says he's losing service. So that was at 7:30, and then 8:44 he says, "I'll do everything I can to shoot an R film." He was so invested in doing an R-rated film, which I think is weird. So Angie Giannetti, I think she's like Sony, right? Part of Sony. She says, "Gotcha, okay, I will update Sony. You are going to try and get as much tasteful hot sex as you can, and we decide in post if PG-13 or R. Remember guys, there is apparently in his contract, Justin's contract, that at the end of the day, there is going to be a bake-off with the movie, and they will see which one tests higher, Sony's cut or the Baldoni cut. And so, that's what at the end of the day, they decide. So Sony decides in post if it's going to be PG-13 or R. I'm going to set MTG with our ratings board head Monday or Tuesday. You find out if we are PG-13, will Colleen be okay, and does she think her readers will be okay?" And then Justin, I don't know why it's called Henny Grace. I don't really understand that. "And look for alts for fucks, etc. But I need to know if I can say I want to fuck you. It's so important. Not having that in there would kill it." Yeah, so there's I think the rooftop scene where Justin Baldoni's character Ryle says point blank to Lily, "I want to fuck you." And apparently that's really, really important. It's important to him. I don't know. So then we have Colleen's response to all of this. When was this? 28th. The 28th, 2023. So then we have the 30th. Same month, the 4th. Colleen says, "I don't have script notes yet, but I want to give my thoughts as a viewer of movies rather than a writer of books real quick. The first kiss is the most important part. Some movies put so little emphasis on it, but it's the thing we wait for, the build-up, the what made them kiss at this point moment. Like sexual tension, right? Because I think a lot of people even in real life experience that. It's like, there's a lot of excitement between like getting to know someone and before you even have like a move, so to speak. And a lot of movies, I think, just don't really do that. So the combo that leads up to that first kiss needs to be something emotionally impactful. Even if it's just one sentence, something that makes each of them give up fighting against this moment. I think where everyone gets it wrong is they think it's the sexual attraction that we want to see, but it isn't. We know there's sexual attraction, we see it, but we want that first kiss to be powerful in so much more than a sexual way. As far as sex scenes you asked me about, there are readers who love to read those, which is why I put them in the books, but as an author and a reader, I much prefer the stolen glances, hand grazes, things like that in a movie. It's fun sitting alone and reading detailed sex scenes to some people, but not many want to be in a theater watching them. And I think we see this a lot with the conversation around sex scenes these days, is that I think a lot of people are deeply uncomfortable with them. People think that, like, a lot of the time it's unnecessary, you know, they want to watch a movie with their friends, their parents, and then you get these really, like, over-the-top sex scenes, and it's just like, did we need this? Did we want to watch this? Could we have just done with just like alluding to that happening? It's been pretty popular in discourse, I think. Yeah. It's way more important we see those angsty looks and forbidden small touches, flirtation, than any extended sex scene. Fade to black is always nice in movies. Some of these movies that focus on romance think women want to watch sex, but they couldn't be more wrong. We want to watch love and emotions and angst and build-up, and then using our imagination from there is fine. Anyway, not saying this is as a reader of the script, because I have no idea what you guys have done with these parts of it, but I wanted to give my thoughts on the overall idea I would love to see as a viewer. I have no doubt that you and Blake will be convincing and can't wait to see the script updates. Yeah, so as I said, discourse around sex scenes. Fun to read in private, but perhaps in a cinema? Or with your family? And that's so good. That's so good. So just why is Justin so hellbent on watching an R-rated movie about DV? Why is it so important to the relationship that he says, I want to fuck you? It's like... It kind of seems like a very, like, male porn-centric view of things, because I don't know how many women actually can say that, like, they're turned on by a guy saying, I want to fuck you? Like, really? I just wish it wasn't really a conversation. Like, as a woman, I don't need to see the love interest be like, I want to fuck you. I want to fuck you. It's like, you see that video, there's a viral video of like a guy who's like, I want to fuck you and I want you to drain my balls out and stuff, and it's like, just no. Some people are into it, okay? And some people are into calling it making love and shit. Me personally, I'm like, don't talk to me about that. So people use Colleen's messages as a way to show that, like, she actually had complete faith in Justin. She thought that everything he was doing was, like, perfect, fine, she loved it. I think what people fail to realize, though, is that once she's sold the rights to her IP being adapted to a movie, she potentially could have been losing out on a lot of rights to make changes, and Colleen herself did say she was very picky about who she was going to adapt the book to film, who she was going to allow to adapt it, because she already had a really sour experience with one of her other book adaptations. Now, It Ends With Us in particular is a very important story to Colleen, one that was made from her own personal experiences with her own parents. It's an extremely personal story for her, and so it makes sense that she would want to be sure that who she's picking is the right person. Baldoni, at the time, seemed to tick all the boxes, and promised to take her notes into account, begging her to give notes on what she thought. For Colleen, it all appeared to be a great deal to her, and she seemed to be making the right decision. Justin probably said all the right things. However, we don't know exactly the details of the deal between Hoover and Wayfarer, and whether she fully signed away her rights in the deal, but for all we know, Baldoni could very well have been offering to take her notes out of the kindness of his own heart for good faith, and then maybe began at some point to stonewall her if she was clashing with his ideas of how he felt he wanted the movie to go. So Baldoni and Wayfarer having bought the rights to the film adaptation, it's likely they were well within their rights legally to shut Colleen out if they wanted to. So that then puts Colleen in a difficult situation, where she has to balance her critiques and suggestions to manage the relationship with the man who has all the power over her book's film. If Colleen is overly nice in text messages and singing the praises of Baldoni, especially early on, I don't doubt a lot of it was genuine at first, but I think that in a way she had to manage that relationship in a careful way to make sure she didn't rock the boat, to maintain that sort of relationship where she can give notes and be taken seriously, which seemed to change at one point, which I believe I'll be talking about later on in this. We'll be circling back, but I haven't read fully all the stuff to do with in between Hoover and Baldoni. I know that there's stuff later on though. So we are going to end it there today, which is like, oh my god. We're going to end it there for today. Next time we'll be talking about the original marketing plan, we'll be talking about HR, the 17-point agreement list or something. Maybe even we'll get to the basement and the female gaze. Okay, guys. Listen, to the 10 people who will watch this, like and subscribe. It's alright. I'm keen to get through all of this, and I'm keen to finish it because I don't know how much else there will be to really go off of. I think we've got trials happening in a few months, I think. And so I'm keen to get this done with. I'm keen to kind of form my own opinion. I think at this point in time, by the end of having everything been read, because I don't know how many more dockets we're going to get, if at the end of everything has been read, I will come up with my opinion of what I think, because I think that's important. I think a lot of people are not really reading everything. A lot of people aren't taking everything into account. And again, there's this weird thing where people are like pretending that they're not biased, but they like clearly are. For me personally, I want to see what both sides of this has to say. I want to see all the angles. I want to see all the sides. And I want to feel like I'm the most informed about it as I can be before I come up with my opinion of things. And I gotta say, it's crazy. I think with so many things that are coming out, especially the new stuff, it is crazy how much your opinion can be like, oh, well, that seems like that. And then you go, well, but that seems like that. Whoa, and that's like that. It's like, it's crazy. So that's why I genuinely can't believe most people really have formed their opinion, because they actually know everything about like the case. And I'm not even gonna say that I know everything just because I read all like the dockets and stuff. I'm not gonna say I know everything. I think that we'll get, you know, it's ultimately for the judge or the jury to decide. You know what I think is funny though? I think it's funny that people were so convinced that this thing was never gonna go to trial, and look here we are. Smug mode activated. That's the one thing that I was never like, I was never unsure about that. I was always pretty much like, this is gonna go to trial for sure. Alright guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I made dry legal stuff. Listen, the texts are kind of juicy, but I hope I made it entertaining as best as I could. I'm sorry I'm terrible at speaking and reading. I don't know how to get better at that, so fingers crossed I just get better at it over time. Alright, peace everybody, see you later, ciao!